Does Twitch make us better or worse at games? Let's find out. Whether you're watching a League of Legends scrimmage or just watching Luigi be a total jerk in Mario Kart 8, Twitch TV has become a major phenomenon. More than 43 million people tune in to the online streaming service each month, and they do one thing and one thing alone: watch other people play video games live.
Oh my goodness, are you serious?
Twitch generates the 4th highest amount of internet traffic during peak hours in the United States. That's right behind Apple, Google, and Netflix. Only Twitch did it in less than 4 years. It's also a major factor in the 2.4 billion hours of esports that were watched last year. And that's why, according to Variety, Google is looking to acquire Twitch for the sum of $1 billion, which seems to be the convenient going price for acquiring a business these days. But there's one important distinction between the Let's Play videos that happen on YouTube and what's happening on Twitch. On Twitch, everything's happening live.
Holy sh**! This isn't fair!
And that's a huge deal, because without all that fancy editing,
done.
players on Twitch are going before the all-seeing, panoptical, unforgiving eyes of the internet. If you thought that you got sweaty palms playing the local Mortal Kombat champ in the arcade back in the day, this is like that, but on steroids. But given all the very reasonable excitement about the future and potential of Twitch, I was naturally curious. How does a live audience affect the way that we play? I mean, for some of us, maybe we'll rise to the occasion, but for the rest of us, could it actually make us worse at games? Well, as it turns out, it's kind of complicated, and I guess if it wasn't, then maybe we wouldn't make an episode about it. So first, the good news. As it turns out, doing certain tasks in front of other people actually makes us better at them. Some of the earliest scientific research comes from psychologists Yerkes and Dodson's theory of social facilitation. Here's the basic idea. Audiences increase what's called our arousal level, which makes us more focused at the task at hand. That increases speed and accuracy if, and this is a very big if, you're doing something that you're already good at. So if you're really good at hauling cargo in Euro Truck Simulator 2, then playing in front of an audience will make you load and unload even better. This theory was even confirmed in a real-life video game experiment. Researchers at Michigan State University found that players were better at Quake at the easy levels when they played in front of other people. For skilled players, their accuracy nearly doubled. So that's a lesson learned. If you're hanging out with your online buds and battling that Pokemon gym leader who poses a mild threat to you, then Twitch can actually make you better and maybe give you a little bit of an ego boost in the process.
Oh, yes!
So close your eyes with me and exhale, and let's all dream of this streaming paradise where we're all playing excellently and pushing each other to be our best. And then snap out of it, because unfortunately for you, the real world doesn't work that way, and I've got a little bit of bad news. There's a little piece of Yerkes Dodson's research that I kind of forgot to mention. As a task becomes difficult, playing in front of others becomes increasingly harder in a number of ways. For one, multitasking and being observed doesn't really mix. In their research, Yerkes and Dodson found that when performing difficult tasks, which is basically what most games ask you to do, crowds actually provoke people to perform worse, especially when multitasking. Unfortunately, that's the very definition of streaming a game on Twitch. You're wearing a headset, holding a controller, trying to impress people by headshotting Nazis while doing that running slide thing in Wolfenstein, and you're keeping an eye on your constantly fluctuating viewership. But that's not even the half of it. Even if you say, crowds don't really affect me, they don't faze me at all, you still know that the audience is there, and even being aware of their presence can be enough to rattle you. The distraction conflict theory of social facilitation says that we can't help but worry about what crowds ultimately think of us, and that's what leads to so many spectacular failures. And if the crowd's especially negative, that only amplifies the effect. For instance, University of Iowa researchers found that dealing with angry jerks causes significant mental drain. Wait a second, who's angry and hostile on the internet? I mean, oh right.
Wait, hang on. He says all of you.
And on Twitch, it's not just one heckler isolated to a single comment. An average game of Diablo 3 can attract hundreds of people, all of whom can comment in real time. So your reputation as a gamer is sort of on the line, and the more viewers you have, which is the point of Twitch, only increases the possibility of trolls calling you a scumbag.
What the hell is wrong with you? Like, really?
The prognosis is tremendously bad. In Neuron, neuroscientists found that high stakes like these lead directly to choking. All of this creates a perfect storm of sucking at a video game, or at least having a nervous breakdown on camera. Okay, so maybe one or two of you are gonna have your Russell Wilson moment and coolly rise to the occasion. But for the rest of us, you're not ready for that kind of pressure. Twitch is gonna make you significantly worse.
God, everyone's gonna see that I haven't played this ever.
And this doesn't even get into the fact that many Twitch streamers are competing for audience not only in terms of how well they play, but how entertaining they are while doing so.
Oh, there's someone weird out on the runway.
That's a surprisingly good Jimmy Stewart.
Undoubtedly, this adds another layer of difficulty because, well, being in front of the camera isn't easy. So please keep that in mind when leaving a comment. The reality is that Twitch streaming is going to make some of us better and some of us worse. As performance artist Marina Abramovic has said, if you leave it up to the audience, they can kill you. But do I think that this performance anxiety is going to halt Twitch's success? Of course not. Twitch is great. Like Let's Play videos, it's bringing back that community element that us old timers used to have in the arcade days. Once again, we're able to watch great players be outstanding and not so great players fail in hilarious ways. And for the rest of us on the sideline waiting to stream for the first time, don't be surprised if you choke, at least a little bit.
No, you've got to be kidding me.
So what do you think? Will Twitch make you better or worse at video games? Hash it out in the comments, and if you like what you saw, please subscribe. I'll see you next week. Hey there, so as you know, we do comments every single week. This week's a little bit different in that we just want to make sure that it's super clear for everyone that the things that I say, the words that come out of my mouth, are my opinions alone, and the comments that we show are the opinions of the YouTube commenters and no one else's. So, in other words, last week we talked about what the potential end of net neutrality might mean for the internet and, more importantly, what it might mean for games. Let's see what we had to say. That guy over there asks, not literally that guy over there, but that guy over there behind the camera is actually Morgan. That guy over there on YouTube wanted to know whether there are any scenarios in which the demise of net neutrality would actually be a good thing for internet users like you and me. Well, here's the argument from Comcast and Time Warner's perspective. They want the ability to charge customers more money for using something like Netflix, and they want the ability to charge Netflix more for creating a bandwidth-heavy application. And they argue that things like Netflix and video streaming, for example, take up a disproportionate amount of bandwidth, and they should be able to pass those costs on to the consumers. If net neutrality exists, that prevents them from having the ability to charge customers more, and they argue that their inability to collect that revenue from internet users will prevent them from investing in things like innovation. That's the basic argument. And they're saying that net neutrality, basically, if it lives, sort of will stifle innovation and their ability to invest in public infrastructure projects. But the problem with that perspective is that Comcast and Time Warner essentially have a monopoly right now and haven't really been investing in innovation. So American internet, compared to 148 other countries, ranks 35th in terms of internet speed. That's according to the World Economic Forum. So it's not like Comcast and Time Warner and these companies have been dumping tons and tons of money into making sure that we have like blazing fast internet. And net neutrality is the one thing that guarantees that all internet traffic is basically treated equally. That's the one thing that protects us as consumers to make sure that these companies actually do invest in innovation. So look, I understand it from Comcast and Time Warner's perspective. Maybe you buy that as a convincing argument, but I certainly don't. Jacob Hamblin and the Real D Flatter argue that the creation of fast lanes would actually be a good thing for consumers, and that if you use more internet, then yeah, you should pay more for the internet. I don't think the issue at hand is whether or not people should pay more for the internet. If you looked at like electricity or water, if you use a ton of those, then you're gonna have to pay for those. The difference is that those are public utilities and those have the ability to be regulated. Broadband internet is not currently regulated by the FCC, which is what the proposed rule changes are ultimately about. And the reason why I think that that would be a good thing is that it's nice to be able to guarantee that your electricity bill is not going to jump or quadruple for reasons that you don't understand, aside from how much you use. So the issue at hand here is not really whether or not we should pay more for internet access. If you're Twitch streaming all the time, then yeah, maybe you should pay more. I think that the issue is that there isn't competition to guarantee that the prices that you pay are competitive and fair. Dylan Chester and the Bake Mister ask about the international implications of the potential demise of net neutrality, whether or not this is an American issue, and what effect you might see if you live outside the United States, which is like most people on YouTube. Well, there are two. The first is just a matter of precedent. In a lot of different parts of the world, net neutrality isn't necessarily a given. So in a lot of developing countries, people use their mobile phones, for example, to access the internet, and net neutrality rules may not govern how they access, Facebook, etc. And so they may look at the decision that the FCC ultimately makes and then use that as a precedent for deciding how they want to structure their own rules. In fact, the EU is going through this right now. Fortunately for people who live in EU countries, they're erring on the side of net neutrality, which is a good thing. Second has to do with the creation and sustenance of internet products in other countries. So here's an example. Let's say that you are a South Korean company and you want to create a competitor to Twitch. You see Twitch is really popular. You decide you want to stream StarCraft 2 matches. Your product starts to take off, and all of a sudden the 300 plus million people who live in the United States want access to this thing that you've created. But then Comcast and Time Warner step in and say, the thing that you've created, South Korean company, is really bandwidth intensive, and so we're going to throttle access of American customers to your particular product. You can see how this ultimately would affect you. I mean, if 300 million people all of a sudden don't have the ability to view this thing that you've created, yeah, that would have an impact outside of just the United States. So, net neutrality here in the United States, this ultimately does have a global impact. It's an important issue for everyone everywhere. Ben Duncan reminds us that you can leave comments for the FCC and Chairman Tom Wheeler on their website, fcc.gov/comments. Maybe you think net neutrality is a good thing, maybe you think it's a bad thing. I would encourage everyone to go and make your opinions heard. It's really, really important. And one last final piece of business, I'm going to be at VidCon this week in sunny Anaheim, California. And I'll be there with some of the other amazing PBS folks, Joe Hansen, Mike Renetta. So if you see any of us, come say hello, give us a high five, give us an autograph. We'll be collecting them. I'm just kidding. But please come and say hello to us. I'd love to meet you in person. And we'll actually be doing a meetup on Friday. So please stay tuned for that on relevant social media channels.